Hey, Kevin, will you check the battery on my car, please? It seems to be starting kind of slow.
Oh, yeah, that was 4 or 5 days ago.
Hello, this is Karen.
And this is Kevin.
And this is Right From Us. Hey, guys, welcome back to Right From Us podcast.
Hello.
Today is August 21st. It's about 7 o'clock in the evening. It's a beautiful day. Started out kind of rainy, then it cleared up. It's been unseasonably cool for August, I feel like.
I think it was pretty warm.
Oh, it was like 80, like mid-80s.
It was very muggy, though.
Yeah, muggy is pretty typical for August in our area, for
Yeah.
sure. So what's new?
Yeah, well, Biden was questioned about the people that fell out of the airplane in Afghanistan by George Stepanopoulos, and he said, "Oh, that was 4 or 5 days ago. Like, what difference does it make how long ago it was?"
This whole Afghanistan thing, I don't know if you guys have been watching. If not, probably should pay attention. It's an absolute disaster, and he's pretty much signed the death warrants for every American and American ally that remain over there right now. So it's pretty scary and sobering how he, first of all, doesn't seem to care about what's happening. And secondly, that he just keeps going on vacation instead of addressing the issue. He's avoiding it. So it kind of makes you wonder, is he leaving because he doesn't care? Or is he leaving because his health is deteriorating and they're trying to hide it? Because this is kind of a crucial moment in history that he needs to address the nation and be strong.
Yeah, he's just out of it.
Or is it a combination of all things?
Yeah, apparently this interview with George Stepanopoulos, they just were able to put just a small portion of the interview.
Yeah, supposedly
online.
They cut about 900 words from the interview because it was utter nonsense.
Did you say that the actual transcript of the?
Yeah, I've got it here. Actually, it is.
Why would they do that? Why would they put the transcript on there? Who put the transcript up there?
Number 9, and it's from the Daily Wire. And let me pull it up, and I'll tell you some of the things that they cut because it was just utter nonsense. He's just a doddering old man. Doesn't know what he's talking about. This is so all the verbiage in bold down below is the part that they cut out of the speech or the interview. So part 2, Stephanopoulos is talking about, about Afghanistan, how we need to get out, about Army Special Forces Officer Javier McKay. He was shot twice, did all these tours. We have to cut our losses in Afghanistan, that kind of thing. And then Biden says, and this is the part they cut out, look, that's like asking my deceased son, Bo, who spent 6 months in Kosovo and a year in Iraq as a Navy captain and then as an Army major. And, I'm sure he had regrets coming out of out of Iraq. He had regrets to how it's going. But the idea, what's the alternative? The alternative is, why are we staying in Afghanistan? Why are we there? Don't you think that the one, who's most disappointed in us getting out, Russia and China, they love us to continue to have to. And then he just kind of breaks off. It's just, he makes his thoughts are so scattered and out there.
It's just an embarrassment at this point. Don't you think that he cannot last much longer?
Yeah. Well,
how can he last much longer?
I don't know. I really don't. I think they're working on trying to implement the 25th Amendment. I don't know. They probably need to because he's just a senile old man, and he's embarrassing America. He's making us look weak. In fact, there was a story out today that Taliban, for whatever reason, again, this whole thing has just been handled so poorly. Not only did we leave without getting all of our American people and American allies out of there first, but apparently we left a bunch of gear and equipment that the Taliban now possesses. In fact, they have been wearing American fatigues and uniforms and making fun of America and mocking America. And it's just humiliating and embarrassing.
Yeah, they recreated that that one famous photo. Where is that? Where is that from? That photo. What is that from?
I don't know. I don't remember. But it's the photo of all the American troops, or some of the American troops trying to put the flag up, and after we defeated whatever country war, whatever it was, and then the Taliban in American fatigues, in combat gear, are also raising their own flag and, copying that picture and mocking America. You put that picture on so they can see it.
Yeah, that's a disgrace.
It's just it's just an embarrassment. And I can't believe it's like basically the Taliban has won and Biden is just so incompetent and weak, and they all know it. And I cannot believe he did this.
So we've got this 25th Amendment thing going on, and also an impeachment, which is not going to do anything. But
the 25th Amendment, it might.
It's a Republican. It's a doctor, a former White House doctor that's a Republican. I think he's a congressman, actually.
Wasn't he Obama's doctor as well?
I think he was. So, that might go somewhere. But, we got Kamala then.
So let's think about this. Let's run this through this scenario. So let's say that that Biden's out. They deem him incompetent and not suitable for the position. So then Kamala gets in there.
Yeah, who would be the vice president then? Nancy Pelosi? I don't know.
How does that work?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either.
I'm not sure if they would have to name another vice president or what.
But Kamala is just not going to be much better. In fact, I'm sure she'll be worse because she has absolutely zero experience at all. And, she laughs like a hyena whenever she's nervous or she can't answer a question or whatever. So I don't know. This is a complete disaster. But hey, we don't have any more mean tweets anymore. Yay for that.
Yeah, maybe somehow President Trump could just swoop in, maybe they could wait till President Trump becomes the Speaker of the House, and then Kamala Harris will be president, and then President Trump would be the vice president.
So really, but how would that work? Like if President Biden's out, Kamala comes in, and they deem her unfit, then what? What happens when both your president and vice president?
What grounds would they deem her unfit?
Well, she's just not making the choices. She's just not ruling.
Yeah, but that would take years, don't you think?
I don't know.
With Biden, it's clear that he's incompetent and just.
I guess you can't impeach someone for just stupidity, which too bad. But yeah I don't know. I think. Man, the way this country is heading, it's not in a good place.
You can impeach somebody for anything, as we've seen over the last couple of years. Yeah. They've just came up with all these phony charges to impeach President Trump.
So then not only is Biden, did he completely it's just a disaster. This whole Afghanistan thing is just a complete disaster, and not get our people out. And then he left our gear and our uniforms and all that stuff. What'd you say it was? Like how many millions of dollars left over there?
$85 million worth of equipment that was left there.
Now, Biden administration charging U.S. citizens $2,000 for evacuation flights out of Afghanistan. Now, they have since stopped that because they got so much backlash and heat and hatred about this because how cruel is this to leave these people in this country and then be forced to go back because the American people caused such a stink about it, because who knows if he actually would have if we hadn't caused a stink. And then to say, okay, fine, we'll go back and get him, but you have to pay me $2,000 to get out for a crisis that I started, by the way. It just, the whole situation is just rude and crude and cruel. And obviously it's not America first with Biden. He could give a rip. So they have since...
I wonder how that transpired. Apparently the General Milley said we got to keep 2,500 people in there just to, wind things down. And apparently Biden just overruled that.
Well, he's commander in chief, right? Over the military?
Yeah.
He's got, he has the ultimate say.
Yeah, you would think that there have been some resignations.
I'm sure there probably were. He just ignored them. or just chose not to listen.
I mean,
or
like General Milley, why wouldn't he have resigned, saying this is going to be a disaster? I'm not going to be a part of it.
I don't know, but this whole thing is just so outright cruel and wrong. It's almost like he did it on purpose. So it makes you wonder, did he strike some kind of deal?
That's a good point. I mean, could they really be this stupid? Are they doing this stuff purposely to destroy the country, essentially, along with the southern border?
Right.
And,
it just seems too
$3 trillion in spending and the Keystone Pipeline and on and on and on. It's only been 7 months that he's been in office now. So,
I mean, these poor people, can you imagine the absolute terror they must be living over there?
All these years they've been supporting the United States military and, interpreters.
Yeah, because they've always been told, don't worry, we've got your back.
Yeah,
we need your help.
Contractors over there helping us out. And then we just
and they did that, fully expecting to be protected. And then we just up and abandon them. It's
pretty sick.
It's really mind blowing what's happened over there. It's just, I still can't wrap my brain around it. And those poor people over there. I mean, and the Taliban, dude, guys, they are sick, disturbed people. I mean, they do not care. They have no respect for humanity. They're all about shoot first, ask questions later. They have zero compassion. And they're just cruel and mean, and to leave these people at their mercy, it's unthinkable. And Biden's approval rating has dropped down to 40, by the way.
I can't believe it's that high.
I can't believe it's that high.
Or in the 40s.
I think it's in the 40s.
I can't believe it's that high.
But, which is something. I mean, it's something. That's the lowest it's ever been. But again, it should be lower.
Do you know who conducted that poll?
Let's see. I don't know if I put that on my list or not. But I don't know. Seemed like I put that on my list somewhere. And then Michael Moore, idiot. He's such an idiot. He's some kind of director, isn't he? Liberal director.
Michael Moore?
Michael Moore.
He's the one that did the Fahrenheit 9/11 and all those left-wing movies.
He's like some kind of producer.
Yeah.
Well, he's comparing the Taliban to the Capitol rioters.
That is just completely out there.
It's so outrageous. What?
Yeah. I'm sure the news media is just going to pick that up and keep repeating that.
Yeah, it's insane.
I mean, they keep talking about this, the deadly insurrection. It was not an insurrection. It was just a protest that got a little bit out of hand. I mean, one person was killed by the police.
Yeah.
A police officer died the next day from a stroke.
Yeah.
And then 4 other people died of medical emergencies, but it's not a deadly insurrection.
Were they stupid? Yes, they acted stupidly.
There was some...
And they got caught up in the moment, and
away.
they just got carried away, and they were boneheads for sure, but it was not an insurrection. What the Taliban is doing right now to the Afghans, that's an insurrection. That is what it really looks like. It's cruel and inhumane, and nothing like what happened on January 6th. Though they want you to think it was that way just to, make Republicans look bad. And this one too. A CNN reporter is over there. These people are so dumb. I swear. I guess maybe they're not dumb, but they like to believe that everybody else.
There was
dumb.
Actually some halfway decent reporting from a CNN reporter that was on the ground over there saying, "Look what's going on, people."
Well, this CNN reporter said Taliban chanting "Death to America,"
I heard about that.
But seem friendly at the same time as they make a sexist comment.
Yeah.
Anything
friendly.
To spin it.
Death to America, but they seem friendly.
They seem friendly. I don't, that sounds like a pretty friendly thing to say, huh? Hey, Kevin, I wish death on you.
That's crazy.
That seems friendly, right?
That is insane.
I'm just trying to be friends with them.
Yeah.
Trying to be friendly.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. I saw that and absolutely rolled my eyes. But anyway, this whole Afghanistan thing is just...
But there actually have been some on-the-ground reports from CNN that were actually going over the things that were happening, and not sweeping it under the carpet, saying this is pretty bad.
Well,
pretty bad stuff that's happening.
Yeah,
here.
and to be fair, I mean, it seems like a lot of the leftist news organizations are actually being pretty critical of this because it's ironic because, Biden's trying to unite everybody. He's doing, well, his message is unification. He wants to unify people, but obviously he's been doing nothing but trying to separate people. But this one thing, this Afghanistan fiasco seems to be uniting people.
Yeah.
Even the left and right agree.
Think that something's going on. Something's going to happen. They're accelerating getting Biden out of office. Don't you think? If even the left-wing media is talking bad about Biden, then maybe
it's bad.
Maybe something's up with that. Kind of like when everybody finally turned on Cuomo. Governor Cuomo. Even the left-wingers were saying you got to resign. That was, you could tell something was up, and he actually ended up resigning, not for the thing he should have resigned for, which was killing people, sending people, COVID patients back to the nursing homes and killing a bunch of nursing home patients, but he resigned over sexual harassment claims.
Yeah,
sort of sweep under the carpet basically the worst charge of basically murdering a bunch of nursing home patients.
Yeah, this Robert O'Neill, the former U.S. Navy SEAL who killed al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden, slammed President Joe Biden during an interview on Friday evening, saying that he needed to be impeached over the disaster that he caused in Afghanistan and let there be no mistake. He caused this whole fiasco. This is nonsense. It's insulting, O'Neill said of the way Biden has handled the situation.
Who is this saying this?
Veteran, Marine, Airman, and Navy SEAL, Coast Guardsmen, everyone I've talked to today, all they tell me is they feel gross. And that's how you should feel. You should feel gross. We don't ask the Taliban permission. You know what we do? We kick their ass. That's it. I'm very, very angry because over 400 combat missions in so many different fields of combat, I have never once lost a fight. My team has never lost a fight. I don't know any Marine who's lost a fight, and that includes the Taliban. And yet here we have a Taliban mocking Americans and making them feel ridiculous. And he's wondering, how come these generals and admirals, he goes, I'm amazed that there hasn't been at least 30 generals and admirals that haven't resigned or been fired today.
And who is that?
That is Robert O'Neill, the former U.S. Navy SEAL who killed
really?
Osama bin Laden.
Oh, wow.
Because think of all the people that have spent, because we've been over in Afghanistan for 20 years.
Oh, man, I know.
Think of all the people that have served and sacrificed their lives in some cases for what? I mean, Biden undid 20 years worth of stuff.
Yeah.
Over there.
Well, even the Taliban, they're issuing demands to us now. Like there's something that they wanted by September 11th. They want something, and I forget what it is.
I think they want all the Americans out by September 11th.
Is that what it is?
I think that's what they said. Of course, how funny, September 11th, right? The 20th anniversary, by the way, is this year of September 11th.
Yeah.
So it's just, I guess, I don't know. Do you think we even should have been over there to begin with? And should we have stayed?
No. Yes and no. We should have gone over there, and we did. We went over there and kicked butt because of 9/11.
Right.
Because that's where the terrorists were trained. And then once we kicked their butt, we should have came out. Of course, it's easy to say that now, but we stayed there to support the country and try to.
Well, we also stayed to try to get the Afghan army in a position where the Taliban wouldn't take over.
Yeah.
And what happened was that the Afghan army just turned tail and ran, even though they far outnumbered the Taliban numbers.
Yeah, there's some speculation that the number was 300,000. The Taliban or the Afghans have got 300,000 troops that we've been supporting for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
But now it's being questioned whether or not there were even 300,000 military at all. And, whether or not the generals and whatever were just taking the money somehow.
Well, I'm sure there was some corruption.
Yeah.
I'm sure there probably was. It's kind of a corrupt country, no matter how you look at it. But
yeah.
The fact that the Afghan president, and on one hand, I get it because he would have been one of the first ones to be killed, made a spectacle of, an example of, if they would have caught him. So, of course, he turned tail and ran. But it's just disappointing that 20 years worth of building up this army and training these people, and they collapse in under a week. So it makes you wonder how serious they were taking it, or if they were just going through the motions. But I work with a girl that her husband is an ex-army guy, and his thoughts on this were that we should at least maintain a presence there because it's centrally located. There's Russia and China and all these other places. So he's military strategic wise, he thinks we should stay there just to maintain a presence.
Well, I mean, that was
the plan.
The plan was to keep 2,500 people there.
Yeah.
But that went down the drain.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's disappointing and disturbing, and there's more and more stories coming out. There was a story today that the Taliban allegedly killed this woman because of bad cooking. Because I guess she cooked a bad meal or something like that.
Well, yeah, and there's also stories of the Taliban going from house to house and hanging people that have been cooperating with the United States.
And they're also taking weapons away from the people because they're telling them, you don't need these anymore. So they're taking their weapons from them.
That's pretty
I mean, if you dare try to protest, the people that have been waving the Afghan flags have been gunned down and killed in the streets by the Taliban. So they're ruthless, evil people. And I cannot believe that Biden left all those people there at the mercy of these very evil people. It's pretty disappointing, to say the least. How do you think Trump wouldn't have done this.
Well, I mean, he had the plan. His plan actually was to exit back in May.
Yeah, but he would have gotten all the people out first.
Well, and to leave 2,500 troops there.
But surely they would have gotten everyone out first.
I don't know. I'm not sure about that.
Why would you not do that, or give them the option of leaving, saying, "Hey, we're going to leave, and I don't know what's going to happen, so you might want to think about taking off." I don't know.
I'm not sure about that. I just think that just the fact that Biden's so weak, with Trump in office, this would never happen because he's strong,
Right.
And he wouldn't, and then just like the other group, the Caliphate or whatever it was, that basically got destroyed by the military when Trump was in office. President Trump told the Taliban, that's what's going to happen to you if you try to pull anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then look what happened when Biden's in office. He's weak. And, our country is going to be subject to other attacks.
Oh, absolutely.
With a weak president.
Absolutely.
And then if Kamala gets to be president, then we're,
I mean, I sincerely pray that we don't get another 9/11, but it's not looking good. I mean, we're a laughingstock to the rest of the world, and they definitely perceive America as being weak right now and vulnerable. And, if they're going to attack, unfortunately, now might be the time to do it, just because of our leadership being so weak.
Yeah, I wouldn't think Afghanistan would attack us, but some other country, just like a surprise attack or
Afghanistan
something,
specifically,
some kind of a cyber attack or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Speaking of taking your weapons away, have you been paying attention to what's going on in Australia?
Australia has gone wild.
Smokes.
It has gone wild.
They have gone.
They had the
crazy
announcement, the health minister or whoever he was announcing that they're going to seize 24,000 children and put them into a soccer stadium to get the vaccine. And
to force them to get the vaccine.
Yeah, and parents, just don't worry about your children. They'll be fine.
Oh my!
Could you imagine? What would you do if somebody?
Well, that's why they're rioting in the streets right now. Well, protesting. They're not rioting. They're protesting. Which today, is nice to see. Actually,
today in Australia there were massive protests. And the police were there, just with all kinds of weapons, shooting rubber bullets and spraying them. I don't know what this foam stuff that they're spraying. Have you seen the videos of that? I don't know what that is that they're spraying on them, but I
saw a guy rinsing his eyes out with water. I'm assuming he got sprayed with whatever they're doing. But can you imagine as a parent? If the government seized your child and said, "Don't worry about it. We're gonna make them get the vaccine, and you really have no say in it."
What would you do if they showed up at the door? I mean, I would be there with my gun, I think.
Yeah.
Saying,
"You're not taking my child. Are you kidding?" Yeah, no, over my dead body. I mean, seriously,
I
no.
don't know. They would have more guns than you would have. if the sheriff or somebody showed up at the door, say, okay, we need your child to come with us.
At least Americans still have a way of defending themselves. Australians don't, because they've outlawed guns, and they have nothing to protect themselves with, and that's the very reason this is a prime, perfect example of why you can't let the government take your guns. Because if the government turns on you, you are defenseless. And that's what it says in our Constitution. So I worry about those poor Australian people. I mean, they're really in over their heads out there. I don't know if they're going to be able to do anything about it or not. But it's pretty bad.
Yeah, they're apparently in Australia. They're building quarantine facilities.
Yeah.
People are calling them vaccination camps. They're going to send people that aren't vaccinated to these vaccination camps.
I guess what really worries me, I'm worried about that country, but I'm also worried for our country. I just don't want people over here to get the idea, hey, they're doing it, we can do it over here too.
I just wonder how Australia got to this point. I mean, Canada and some other countries out there, New Zealand, Australia, they went over the top on lockdowns and, vaccine passports and things like that. How did they get to that point?
I don't know.
The people would have had to have let that happen.
Well, and I feel like they're trying to make that happen here, but we just have enough of an opposition to either slow it down or hopefully stop it at some point from that happening. Because it's insane. The reaction to this COVID is insane and crazy.
I mean,
unreasonable.
They've had 5 deaths. But I guess they could say, well, the reason we've only had 5 deaths is because
they're going to come back and say that.
But in New Zealand, I think it was New Zealand, they instituted lockdowns over one COVID case. They had one COVID case, so they got lockdowns in New Zealand.
It's unbelievable. And speaking of, go ahead.
I think that one huge problem with this whole thing, this whole situation, is the confusion between the word transmissible and deadly. The virus apparently is extremely transmissible, meaning, you can get it really easily, like just if you're in the same room with somebody that's got the virus. Okay. But it's not that deadly. And I think that there's been a confusion between deadly and transmissible.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's extremely transmissible, but it's not that deadly.
For most people.
For people that are healthy, under the age of 60, or actually under the age of 70, it's not that deadly.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I know.
So it doesn't warrant all these crazy.
No. Our reaction is it's out of sync with what's happening right now. It really is.
Well, I mean, these other countries here in the United States, there is definitely a vaccine. It's almost like a religion now, don't you think? It's like a vaccine religion.
No, it's more like a cult.
It's like a cult. It's like
it's like a bad religion.
Yeah, it's like I just clicked on this. This came out yesterday, 2 days ago. The CDC Director Walensky saying there's an increased risk of severe disease among those who vaccinated early.
Yeah, I know. And so that makes me wonder, the outbreak right now, the Delta variant that we've been dealing with for the past few months. I mean, how do you know that hasn't been started or made worse?
Somewhere there's a statistic that shows that the highest places that have been vaccinated is where the Delta variant is the highest. I saw that.
I mean, there's been a study that said that people that have been vaccinated shed the virus, and that makes sense that they would, give it to other people around them, and it makes sense that the Delta variant would be kind of out of control because more people are vaccinated, therefore shedding the vaccine to other people as well.
So I guess what they're pushing for now is these people, the people that got vaccinated first should be the ones getting the new booster shot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because they definitely are talking. Of course, well, I don't know. They were talking about a booster shot being given to the immunocompromised. They were talking about giving the booster shot to the immunocompromised at first, and I knew that at some point they're going to recommend it for everyone. So they're recommending it for everyone at this point.
Yeah, well, Biden came out, just this week sometime. It was right when the Afghanistan stuff was going on. It's like, well, why is he talking about this? When we got what's going on in Afghanistan, but he's coming out and saying you should get a booster shot 8 months after your second, fully vaccinated shot.
And I don't know if I think I did. The Neuroscientist vaccine has glaring weakness that natural COVID infection doesn't. Basically saying that natural immunity gives you immunity longer than these vaccines are now giving you, which they switched it around there at first saying, oh no, you get the vaccine, your immunity is going to last a lot longer than your natural immunity.
They're saying that without evidence.
Well, this neuroscientist is saying that that's not true. Vaccine has glaring weakness that natural COVID infection doesn't.
No, I'm saying that neuroscience has no evidence. That's how they always contradict everything that comes out that doesn't agree with their narrative. Oh, there's no evidence of that.
Well, it's like, we're following the science. Where's the science? Where's the science? Let's see some studies.
That's another thing I was thinking about this week is name a scientific study or a scientist that's out there that's pro-vaccine that isn't somehow tied into the drug company or getting paid somehow or tied in with the government,
Yes.
The scientists that are presenting the evidence, stating that the vaccine might not be necessary, they're actually putting their careers on the line. There's no financial incentive for them whatsoever.
Right. They're just trying to do what's right.
Yeah. Like, for example, the Pfizer, the former Pfizer executive scientist who's out there saying, this, I don't know if we can say this or not without getting taken off YouTube, but this Pfizer executive scientist is saying, this thing hasn't been tested for toxicity.
Yeah.
It hasn't been fully tested for toxicity. He was apparently in charge of the testing for toxicity of vaccines when he was the scientist at Pfizer. And he's saying this has not been tested at all for that and definitely should not be giving it to pregnant women.
Yeah.
This scientist is practically in tears talking about this. He has no incentive whatsoever, no financial incentive. In fact, it's the opposite. He's getting, shunned by other scientists for coming out about that.
Speaking of financial gain, I mean, these drug companies have been making billions of dollars on this, by the way.
Yeah, just give me a scientific study or a scientist that's out there that's not getting some kind of financial gain from the vaccine.
I know, yeah. So this neuroscientist, let's see, what's his name? I'll figure out what his name is here in just a second. But he says the left-wing browbeating of Americans to get the coronavirus vaccine and accompanying booster shots could be undermining the country's ability to achieve herd immunity, according to one neuroscientist. That is because while the vaccines injected into our bodies stimulate internal immunity, they don't prevent vaccinated individuals from contracting the virus through the mucous membranes of their noses and mouths. In contrast, unvaccinated people who have recovered from COVID-19 or have antibodies due to their exposure to infected individuals may be better protected from the virus than the vaccinated, according to Dr. Michael Siegel, a neurologist and neuroscientist. All this has implications for public health authorities' determination to achieve herd immunity through vaccination alone. He pointed to a recent outbreak in Massachusetts where 74% of infections occurred in fully vaccinated individuals. 74% of infections were from vaccinated individuals.
Yeah, but that was 4 or 5 days ago.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. There's also been a massive recent outbreak in Israel where 78% of residents 12 and older are fully vaccinated with a Pfizer vaccine. Let's see. That would mean herd immunity through vaccination is impossible.
Well, it also causes the virus to mutate faster.
Yeah.
Did you say that? Did you say that?
No, but that makes complete sense.
Yeah.
So, and which would require yearly booster shots.
Yearly or more often.
I
saw a meme the other day that it's like you can join the Pfizer monthly booster program for $5.99 a month.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
Yeah, we may get taken off the YouTube for this, but we're on Rumble and also we're on Gab now. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So you can find us a couple different places.
Yeah, we're on Gab.
So I don't know, you may have to block some of this from the YouTube version with instructions for the full version. See us on Rumble or whatever. But
yeah.
Isn't it sad that we have to do that? It's so sad that we have to do that. That big tech is so bent. They're so hell bent on censoring people.
Yeah, man. There's prominent,
just talking about this stuff.
Prominent scientists in scientific studies and doctors, prominent scientists saying this stuff, and you can't say it. You can't repeat it.
No. And some of these prominent people have lost their jobs and have been, their credibility has been questioned and all this other stuff just because they're trying to inform people. It's called informed consent. They're trying to inform people of all this stuff so you can make the best decision.
Well, like I've been saying, it's like back in the olden days, you would say, okay, doctor, I want to get a second opinion.
Yeah.
About this. And apparently you can't do that anymore. You can't have a second opinion that's different than the accepted diagnosis.
Yeah, and I was talking to you earlier at dinner and couldn't tell you which state it is. Mississippi orders isolation for COVID positive citizens. Mississippi residents, vaccinated or not, must isolate at home for 10 days if they test positive for COVID-19 or face up to 6 months in jail and a fine of $500, the state announced Friday. All persons, including fully vaccinated individuals infected with COVID-19, must remain in the home or other appropriate residential location for 10 days from onset of illness or 10 days from the date of a positive test for those who are asymptomatic. A negative test for COVID-19 is not required to end isolation at the end of 10 days, but you must be fever-free for at least 24 hours with improvement of symptoms. Wow. Here we go. I mean, that's basically what Australia's doing.
Essentially.
Well,
except they're locking down everybody.
Except they're actually going out they're actually like being physical presidents.
How they could possibly enforce that, though.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So if you don't isolate, you can go to jail for 6 months. 6 months. So here's my thing. Why are people okay, wouldn't that dissuade you from getting tested? If you know that if you could potentially be positive and if you make a mistake, you go to jail for 6 months, I'm not going to go get tested.
I'm not going to get tested. The PCR test.
Can you imagine?
The PCR test has up to 97% false positives. I mean.
Right. So you can't even rely on the test they're giving you to see if you really have it or not.
That's another thing I was wondering about this week. They keep talking about this Delta variant, the deadly Delta variant. How do they even know that it's a Delta variant? They came out, the FDA came out and said that the PCR test, they're dropping the PCR test at the end of the year because it's unreliable.
Right.
They can't tell the difference between the virus and the flu.
And the influenza.
How can they possibly know that it's the Delta variant?
Exactly. Like, what are they doing? Are they testing do they have different kinds of tests
they don't
to
know.
show that it's actual the Delta?
They
How can
have
they tell
no
between
idea.
COVID and Delta COVID?
They have no idea.
See,
they're just saying that.
I mean, all these questions. It's like no wonder that we don't trust anything that they say, and then we're called the anti-vaxxers because we have questions because we're hesitant.
Yeah. Well, we're looking at the science.
Well, we're hesitant because of all the things that we're talking about. None of this makes sense. None of this is aligning. None of this. They change their stories every day. There's so many questionable variables.
Yeah.
And Fauci tells unvaccinated Americans to put aside concerns about personal liberties to fight pandemic.
Have you heard what?
Just do what you're told, people.
Have you heard?
Don't think.
Have you
we
heard
don't want
what,
you thinking for yourselves.
Speaking of Fauci, have you heard what Carrie Mullis? Carrie Mullis is the scientist that actually invented the PCR test back in the 80s, I think, or maybe the 90s, back when the AIDS virus was around. He invented the PCR test. And he actually is a Nobel Prize winner because he invented the PCR test. He said, Kerry Mullis, who invented the PCR test, said that Dr. Fauci doesn't know anything about anything. He's nothing but a bureaucrat. He doesn't know anything about medicine. That's what Kerry Mullis, who is a scientist, a Nobel Prize winning scientist, said. And curiously, Kerry Mullis died I think he died in August of 2019.
Which, I mean, to be fair, how old was he? I mean,
he was
looked
70,
like he was pretty old in that
70s.
video.
He was like 72 or 70, maybe 75.
I mean, it seems kind of suspicious that he died right before this whole thing blew up. But who knows? Maybe that was truly a coincidence. But it is interesting to listen to him talk that, Fauci is basically just a blowhard and doesn't have a lot of scientific knowledge.
We've got the whole world essentially
doing what he says.
Bending over for everything that Dr. Fauci says. Dr. Fauci should probably be in jail right now, is what,
yes.
He's actually been, Rand Paul actually, I don't know what the correct terminology is, but he recommended criminal charges against Dr. Fauci for lying to Congress.
Yeah, I think he should definitely have some criminal charges brought against him. Just based on his involvement from the very beginning. Also, I think I talked about this last podcast, but there was America Frontline Doctors White Coat Summit, and they had a bunch of doctors talking about their experiences and stuff with COVID in this past year. And there was a pathologist that really, I thought, had the best segment of that summit. And his name is Dr. Ryan Cole. And let me just read this to you. During a 1-year anniversary White Coat Summit on vaccines, Dr. Ryan Cole emphasized the finding that the spike protein created by injected mRNA spreads throughout the body and itself causes disease, and he had the lab images to show it. Cole presented these images, which showed post-COVID jab inflammation in organs such as the heart, lungs, and kidneys, as corroboration of lab studies in which injecting the spike protein with no body of the virus in animals induced the same disease that COVID-19 causes. Cole supported the finding by other scientists that the spike protein doesn't remain in the shoulder area but circulates in your blood and lands in multiple organs in the body, where ACE2 receptors allow the spike protein to bind to organ tissue. Cole kicked off his visual evidence of spike protein-induced damage with images displaying the spike protein's effects on mitochondria, the engine of our cells. The microscopic image showed that post-COVID jab, one person's engine of the cells became abnormally disjointed and fragmented. So basically he's talking about how this spike protein goes to your organs and causes inflammation. And like you go to your brain as well. According to Cole, the spike protein bonded to the ACE2 receptors in the lung, provoking an inflammatory response in which the immune system attacks your own body. Cole then pulled up a study demonstrating that the spike protein of SARS-CoV-2 crosses the blood-brain barrier in mice, backing it up with scans showing that the jab spike protein took a similar path. I kind of like my brain cells to be where they are and not blown apart. That's a quote. So why in the world will we put a toxin into the human body that's going to disrupt the blood vessels in your brain, allow the spike in there to cause inflammation, said Cole. So these are pictures of people that have been injected with the jab, and it's causing inflammation in the organs, which is causing people all kinds of issues. And this is, not primarily, but one of the reasons that's causing these long COVID symptoms that you hear about, basically, symptoms that don't really go away after you've recovered from COVID. So I think that's pretty telling as well, that this spike protein is dangerous. And again, we are the test subjects. Humans are the test subjects, because all the animals they've tried this on, all those trials were not successful.
Yeah. I've also heard conflicting information about the spike proteins, that's not really that big of a problem. So, for me, I hear prominent scientists on both sides saying this is good or this is bad. So for me, I'm just holding off. That for me, that's just a good reason to just hold off on getting the vaccine.
The scientists that you've heard that say that it's not a big deal, are they providing evidence? Are they providing any pictures like this guy?
I don't know.
Because, to me, that's pretty...
it was on CNN, so...
it's got to be true if it's on CNN.
Internet, so I don't know.
But to me, since he had some pictures backing up and he had arrows and things showing you where the inflammation is compared to a normal tissue and then inflammation, I think that's pretty telling to me. But I don't know. What do I know? I'm not a scientist.
We're sort of getting up there on time.
You sound resigned. Let's see. Is there anything on your list that you wanted to be? How about this nurse you were talking about? Why don't you talk about her? That she's been fired on December 1st.
There's a post on Gab from this nurse. Why
don't you read a little bit of what she wrote? It's pretty eye-opening.
I don't know her name. But basically, she's just saying she's been a RN for 10 years. And over the last year, she's been working in the COVID ward. I'm not sure what state or where this is at. But, she's been sacrificing herself, basically, for the last year, working in the COVID ward. Mm-hmm. And now her hospital is mandating the vaccine, so she is going to be fired on December 1st.
Yeah.
So basically, these nurses are going from heroes to zero, essentially.
Wow.
I
know Nick Reed, speaking of the little slogan catchphrase, Nick Reed he kept saying it several times on his podcast when he was talking about the whole Afghanistan fiasco, Biden lies, people die. He kept saying that several times. But unfortunately, it seems like it's true. But that's true on this whole nursing issue. It's like they were working around these COVID-infected patients from the very beginning, not having any idea what they were dealing with. Totally scary.
Yeah, she was just going, trusting the science, saying that the science shows that the virus is 99% survivable. So she went off of that, and that's why she volunteered for the COVID unit in the first place.
Yeah.
And she's been fine, and she's seen quite a few patients survive. Most of the patients survive. There have been some that have succumbed to the
but she did say that most of her patients walked out.
Most, yeah. But now she's being fired because she won't submit herself to the vaccine. I wonder if she actually has caught the virus and has immunity.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's pretty sad. That's pretty sick.
I just hope they come out with some kind of easily accessible antibody test, because I really want to know if I have antibodies. That's really what I want to know, because if we have natural immunity, then I'm really not worried. You know what I'm saying? And if I've had it, I don't know how you possibly couldn't have had it at some point.
I know.
You might have been one of those asymptomatic people, but I think I had it back in April. I really do. In my gut of guts, I think I've had it. But I would like an antibody test.
Yeah, there's a lot of lawsuits out there. A lot of them for colleges that are making their college students present evidence that they've been vaccinated, and there's quite a few lawsuits out there. And the actual text of the lawsuits is online, talking about all the things that are available to combat the virus, other than vaccine, natural immunity and some drugs, which we won't talk about right here because we can't. But and also natural remedies like one thing that was in this. They were talking about melatonin being a natural remedy for.
That's interesting.
For fighting viruses. I've never heard that before, but I take that every day. So
yeah, well, maybe that's one reason why you may not have ever gotten it.
I don't know.
Fresh air, sunshine. You're outside all the time doing your stuff, and then you take a lot of melatonin. So who knows? Maybe you had a 1-2 punch and didn't even know it.
Possibly.
You said we're getting up there on time.
We are getting up there.
What's other time now? Okay, well, let's do some questions.
Oh, goody. Questions.
Yes, questions. Okay, so what do you think your recurring dreams mean? First of all, do you believe in dreams?
I mean, I believe in dreams, yes.
Okay, what do you mean by that? What do you
I
mean
have
you
dreams.
believe in it?
I have dreams.
Well, you believe they're what? True?
Dreams,
You believe they're...
Dreams can be, most of the time, it's just nonsense, just your brain relaxing itself or exercising itself. You know, there are certain things that can be a dream that maybe the Lord gives you.
Like a revelation?
Yeah. But for the most part, dreams are just your brain just messing around.
So you don't think that dreams are premonition or anything
not
like
necessarily.
that?
No, for the most part, no.
Do you have any recurring dreams?
I have all kinds of recurring dreams.
Okay, name one.
Oh, man. I have dreams of flying.
Okay.
Flying,
What do you mean,
not
like
in an airplane, just me flying like a bird. I just all kinds of dreams like that.
I don't have them as much anymore, but I used to have the same kind of dream where all my teeth would fall out. I've had that dream several times throughout my life. I should look that up. I think that means something.
Yeah.
Like let's see, let me think. If like you don't feel like you're in control or I forget what it means.
Yeah,
it means
something. There's all these things online where you can interpret your dreams. I don't know about that. My dreams are just weird. Like I had a dream that we were all getting on a train. We were all getting on a train and we had to all sit in this pod, but we had to show our pockets full of germanium transistors before we could get on the plane before we could get on the train. Yeah,
but that sounds like COVID passport to me.
Germanium transistors.
Well, I don't even know what that is.
That's crazy.
Oh, but still, the fact that you have to show something before you can go somewhere.
That was about a year ago. That was about a year ago. And there has been some really weird things that have happened. Like I used to have this recurring dream that I was sitting in this room and some people were around me. And I had this dream over and over and over for years and years and years. And then when I had my motorcycle accident, that dream basically was the last day that I was at the hospital in Columbia, in the hospital room.
What was the dream?
Basically, I was in a room with some people around me.
Maybe it was like a premonition.
I don't know.
A little bit.
I mean, what would be the purpose of that? And I could just be imagining that too. I don't know.
And this is a normal conversation, by the way, between him and me. Because he does have really weird dreams and he will tell me them and I will always try to interpret them. And then he's like, And it's usually something to do with that's either something that's on your mind or something that's coming up in your life. Or
I just think it's your brain just relaxing. And
I think it's your brain talking to you, just not in a normal, like it's through visuals instead of like through language.
I used to track my dreams. I was writing them down and just trying to figure out if it meant something, but I don't think it means anything. It's just your brain relaxing.
I think it's your brain trying to process
and being creative.
Your life, basically, and trying to process something that's happened in your life or something that you're like a problem you're trying to solve or something that's bugging you or a stressor or something like that.
I don't dream about problems. What happens to me is I wake up at 3:00 in the morning thinking about problems and solving the problem at 3:00 in the morning all the time.
I can say I never have that problem. Once I'm asleep, I'm usually asleep unless I have to get up and go.
I mean, I have solved a lot of problems at 3:00 in the morning.
Well, again, that's because your brain is talking to you while you're sleeping. It's like your brain is continuing to work as you sleep.
Yeah.
And then maybe presenting a solution that your conscious mind didn't think about.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think dreams are fascinating. I mean, I wouldn't put much stock in dreams, but they are pretty fascinating to just think about and talk about, really.
Yeah. Have you ever woken up in the middle of the night and
jerked? Yes.
Or yelled or something? I have before.
I don't
not
think I have.
Not very often, but I have woken up saying, I remember one time I said, "Grandpa!" When I wonder
why. Was that like shortly after your grandpa died, or
no? It was this is when I was a kid.
Oh, well, maybe you were worried about grandpa.
I don't know,
or something. Maybe he was acting weird, and you were worried about him.
I don't know.
Have you ever done any sleepwalking?
I don't think so. Have you?
No, I don't know. I've never done that. To my knowledge, I don't think so. I mean, no? You?
I don't think so. There are some people that have actually like driven their car while still asleep.
Isn't that? Oh, that's scary.
That is really weird.
That is scary. Yeah. I don't know. But as far as recurring dreams, other than the teeth falling out of my mouth, I can't really think of anything. Have you had like more than one dream that just...
Yeah, I can't think of them right now, but I've had quite a few recurring dreams. Actually, there's this other dream that I have it's like I'm at this warehouse by the beach. And
What's in the warehouse?
Some records. I have put in some records. I put some records in there.
Like records, like you play on a record machine, or just like paper records?
Paper documents. And I put the paper documents in this warehouse, and hoping that other people won't find them. It's like a concrete, almost like a bunker by the beach.
I wonder if that means you have secrets to hide. Like you're trying to hide secrets, or you've got some valuable information that you don't want people finding out about. I used to have I've woken up crying before. Have you done that? Like I've had like super sad dreams and I've woken up crying.
Yeah.
And I had
a dream about you one time. Something happened to you and I woke up crying.
Yeah. I used to have recurring dreams about you, like finding another woman. Or I would catch you cheating or something like that. And I would just wake up crying. It made me so sad. And it just, I don't know. It's weird. I guess my own insecurities coming through on that. But yeah. And I did have a couple of dreams, pretty sad dreams when you had your motorcycle accident.
Really?
Kind of like nightmares of an alternative outcome.
Really?
Yeah. So, and I remember waking up crying a few times thinking that really happened. And thank God it didn't. So. Anyway, okay, how about another question? Oh gosh, this is kind of timely in a weird, macabre way. What methods would you support, if any, for controlling the human population?
I mean, I wouldn't support anything like that, but some speculate that that's what's going on right now with this thing that's going on in the world.
Well, and with abortion too.
Because, well, there you go.
With black
Apparently
people?
Apparently in 2008, Bill Gates, either Bill Gates or Bill Gates' dad, George Soros, and a bunch of these other people had this conference about controlling the world's population.
Wow.
And there were people that were involved in what's going on right now there at that conference in 2008. So
yeah, and I've always
that's something on the internet, so I'm not so sure that that's truthful, but
well, but I feel like Bill Gates has been involved in quite a few of these weird conversations about controlling human population, which is weird and disturbing. Yeah. But I mean, you could say the same for abortion too, because the person that founded Planned Parenthood was all about trying to control the black population.
Yeah.
And in fact, it's done such a good job that, I mean, black abortions are super high. Yes, exactly. Aborted. Which, speaking of population, I think this is the first year that they said that the white population is down or something like that, which is crazy. So I think that's just because, people are not getting married and reproducing. And
well, yeah, who would want to be white these days? I mean, we're the cause of everything.
I mean, they demonize
white supremacy, white privilege.
Would there ever be a situation where you would be in favor of it? Like, I mean, if like the human population was like, if just
I think
just started exploding and we had more people than resources,
that would just take care of itself naturally,
like natural selection.
It would just take care. I mean,
like you mean through diseases and things like that.
If there ever got to be too many humans, there'd be not enough food, so that would then there'd be famines, and it would just
starvation,
take care of.
But then there'd be
it would take care of itself that way.
Chaos and riots and Mad Max and kind of world. Well, yeah, that's true. You're probably right. It would probably naturally take care of itself, unfortunately, if the human population got to be too much.
Yeah, but that is one thing. In the tribulation period, that's one of the first things that happens
is famine.
Famines, wars, pestilence, and famine, and then false Christs. Mm-hmm. It's the seals, and 25% of the world's population is killed off at that point.
25%.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. Okay, last question. How would your life be different if you had no fear? I don't know that it would be much different. I mean, I don't really feel like I have a lot of fear now. I mean,
yeah. I mean, I don't have that much fear. I mean, when I was younger, I was basically afraid of my shadow.
Were you really?
Yeah, I mean, just really shy, really quiet, really, really shy. You know?
Interesting.
And I mean, today, I think like public speaking, if there's ever a group of more than about 2 people, I just basically clam up because I don't really like to.
Well, that's definitely a common fear for sure. As far as me, it depends. I wouldn't choose to speak in front of a crowd, but it depends. If I were very passionate about the subject, I think I would be okay doing it because I get passionate about things. If you haven't noticed, I mean, I don't know you. It may be kind of obvious by now, but I do get passionate about some things.
You do?
I know it's
weird.
Kind of weird to think, but I guess define fear. Because I mean, like I'm fearful of big bugs and spiders. I mean, I don't know that really dictates my life, other than I wouldn't want to be outdoors where I would encounter big bugs and spiders. I guess.
Yeah.
So I mean, like fear, as in. You just fear life. You fear people. You fear.
I mean, look at all the fear that's going on today. I mean,
absolutely.
People walking around with a mask, walking down the street.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like there is no scientific evidence whatsoever that would justify that.
And if there is, we would love to see it, by the way. If you guys come across some studies that show that masks are effective, by all means, send them to us.
Something besides what Dr. Fauci is saying.
Right. Yeah. It can't be something Dr. Fauci said. He doesn't know anything.
Yeah. He doesn't know. According to Carrie Mullis, he doesn't know anything about anything.
Yeah. But actually, our current climate is a perfect example of how fear dictates people's lives. And how it changes your life.
We were sitting there at dinner tonight. It's like you can sort of tell which ones are watching the TV news coming in the door. It's like, wow.
And honestly, I just feel bad for them. I feel sad for people that are wearing masks and are living their life in fear. I think it's a sad way to live. But unfortunately, people are human and they believe what they're told. And, they just...
Yeah.
Fear is very, very powerful, obviously. I mean, this is why we're in the shape that we're in now. And obviously the government uses it to control us, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But anyway.
All right.
Okay. Well, we better get going. We've talked enough. I hope you have a good week. Thanks so much for listening. We appreciate your time and I hope you have a good week.
Yeah. Thanks for listening and watching.
And we'll see you next time.
Okay, bye.
Bye.